back to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome back to this week's edition of Cody Talks NFL. Hope you guys been enjoying the return of the NFL. I know I have been. Last night's game was great. We got to see two former Heisman winners, two former number one overall picks go at it in a classic AFC North battle. I thought the Browns were going to pull away, but Joe Burrow is always going to keep his teams within games. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this episode. If you are a new listener of the show, to kind of give you an idea what I do, I start the episode by recapping the Thursday night game, give you my feelings on each team. If there's any relevant news, I give out my Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia player of Thursday Night Football. And then I go into the game. I'm going to go through the Sunday 1 p.m. games, the Sunday 4 p.m. games, the Sunday night game, and the Monday night game for you. And then if you are watching us on YouTube, which you are this week, we are only streaming on our YouTube channel this week for technical reasons. So if you are on our YouTube channel, please go to the chat. My boy Rob, who always helps me produce this thing, he'll be watching the chat. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to interact with him during the show, feel free. Maybe it's hard to after a week one win, but maybe you can make some jabs at him as a Rams fan. I don't know if Jay's shown up yet. You are a super fan. He's an Eagles fan, so maybe he can have some fun with Rob in the chat today. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get into this. Last night, the Browns won 35-30. The Browns are now at a 1-1 record. Bengals are sitting at an 0-2 record. Sorry about that, guys. If you lost me for a sec, that's on me. My do not disturb apparently does not work anymore. So again, guys, I'll repeat what I just said. Browns won 35-30. A couple news notes from last night's game. The Browns, Adrian Claiborne, he left with a hip injury, and he was unable to return. C.J. Uzomah, their tight end, he was having a really great game with Joe Burrow last night. Fortunately, in the fourth quarter, he did suffer a torn Achilles. It's already been announced this morning. He's done for the season. So Drew Sample, who's in our prospect encyclopedia list for the Bengals, he is now going to have to fill his role. And he looked like he's gonna be a quality guy so far in his little limited action from last night to fill in that tight end slot for the Bengals. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the winner of last night's game, the Browns. What I like from them, what I like is that we got to see what that offense could potentially be. Now, was it against one of the weaker defenses in the NFL? Sure, that's not a question. But this is what this offense can be when that offensive line is healthy, when it's on the same page, when they can feed the rock to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and then they can also feed off those backs into play action. I like that they went to the play action early. They got Baker moving outside the pocket. That allowed him to have a better vision of the field to scan to complete those passes. He looked like the Baker Mayfield that we saw from his rookie year. It's been a long time since Baker flashed like that. He still has to clean up some things as far as his reads. He does have to understand game situations like we saw last night. He has to understand when his team is easily moving the ball on the ground. There's no reason to force that interception that he ended up having. I know he was trying to force that touchdown. I know he's probably feeling himself. To me right now, Baker's a guy that really thrives off his whatever's going inside his head, his emotion, and that could either be a benefit to him, because we could see him come into a game like last night fired up and put on one hell of a performance, or he gets inside of his head when there is pressure, when he's in the pocket and he can't make his reads, he can't make that first throw, which does lead to those poor plays when he has the interceptions. Or if he's getting overconfident, he thinks that he can sling the ball too much, which leads to interception. So he just needs to understand in those situations, don't force it. Make sure there's not going to be a guy that's coming out of nowhere to get the interception. And then I'm going to go ahead and move to the Bengals. They're going to be a team, man, that's always going to be in games as long as Joe Burrow is on the field. The thing is, they need to get him an offensive line right now. Jonah Williams is great, but I don't trust the rest of that offensive line right now. They completely got blown up last night. Coming from a guy that's a Colts fan and saw this happen to Andrew Luck, like, don't get this guy hurt. They need to immediately invest into the offensive line this offseason. Because of the offensive line and the weaker defense, they're probably going to be picking in the top 10 realistically, unless Joe Burrow can take them on a winning streak. So they need to get one of these top offensive linemen in this next draft. But yeah, Joe Burrow was impressive last night. This team is always going to be within reach to win a game. I think he's that type of quarterback where it doesn't matter what's around him. He's going to put his team in a position to walk out with that W. And then I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my Blitzalytics Prospects Encyclopedia of Thursday Night Football. Now, normally I think I would pick the winning team and pick a guy that maybe a Jedrick Wills, who played very well for the Browns offensive line last night. You can tell that it's very crucial that he needs to stay healthy and stay in that lineup for that team to have success. But you can't pass up Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, he was the number one player. Jacob Patterson from the Scouting Report. You can follow him at Scouting LLC. He was the number one player, of course, for the Bengals on his list. But all the scouts in that book voted on a top 90 player list from all the players that are inside the encyclopedia. And he was the number one overall consensus of the prospect encyclopedia. And it just showed last night. He set some records last night I'd like to go over. First of all, his stat line is he went 37 of 61 passing attempts. So get the ice on the shoulder this weekend, Joe. He had 316 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had no interceptions. Now, those 37 completions are the most ever by a rookie. He had 61 passing attempts. Those are the second most ever by a rookie. And then one last stat line on Joe. Joe Burrow is the first rookie since 1950 with 60 passing attempts and 0 interceptions in a game. So that he's going to grow. And then what I do like to do when I give out this award, guys, is I like to pull up this pretty boy right here. And I like to read the overview of what the scout wrote about. So the cool thing about the number one prospect for each team is they get a big in-depth scouting report that you can read about. But as far as the overview, what Jacob wrote is, he said the Burrow is coming into a 50-50 situation. From one side, it looks like a bad situation as he landed on the worst team in the NFL with a very suspect offensive line. However, with Joe Mixon, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, and T. Higgins, he has a plethora of weapons and running backs to make his life easier. Burrow looks to become the face of the Bengals franchise almost immediately. That's spot on. He called out the offensive line. Joe has plenty of weapons, and you can already say this. I'm going to go ahead and say this. He already is the face of the Bengals franchise. So I'm a big believer in Joe Burrow. They can get an offensive line, get some playmakers on all 3 levels of that defense. I would not be surprised if the Bengals are competing for the playoffs next year. And hot take, Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes in the 2022 AFC Championship game. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get.
Wow, I had to unmute my. Wow, that is hot, bro. That's hot. We gotta write that one down. I
said 2022 now, not this year. It's gonna take time, but I want to see those two young cats go at it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get into these 1 p.m. game previews. The first game I am going to talk about is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. As far as any news, no news. I'll go over injuries heading into this matchup. First with the Jaguars, Tyler Davis has not practiced this week because of a knee injury. Josh Allen has been limited because of a calf injury. And then as far as the Titans end, they might be missing their young star wide receiver in A.J. Brown, not just this week, but for multiple weeks. He has a knee bruise. He has not practiced recently. And so he could be out a few weeks. So that could be a big loss for the team. Maybe not so much in this matchup. I do think they can get away with him without him this game, but maybe in future matchups against better teams. Other people on the Titans injury report so far. Taylor Lewan did not practice. It's because of an illness. Now, not because of the illness you might think he wouldn't be allowed in the building. So he's just sick. Most guys are usually, when they show up on the report with an illness, are fine by game day. And then Corey Davis has been limited with a hamstring injury. Darrington Evans has been limited with a hamstring injury, and then Malcolm Butler has been limited with a quad injury. Now, as far as how I think this game's going to go, I do think the Titans, with them being at home, I do believe they are going to handle business. I think you're going to see plenty of Derrick Henry, kind of something what Rob mentioned on the Fantasy Voyage. I think it is going to be a heavy dose of the run game. I mentioned too on the Wednesday episode of the Fantasy Voyage that the defense of the Jaguars, C.J. Henderson, great. The rest of the secondary, not that good. So I do think that they could potentially get him through the air. Now, the loss of A.J. Brown is huge, but as long as Corey Davis can play through his hamstring injury and he can look like the Corey Davis that we saw on Monday night, they'll be able to move the ball. They still got Jonnu Smith. Adam Humphries is still there. And then we'll see if Darrington Evans can end up playing this week to maybe give him a scat back out of the backfield. And then on the Jaguars side, Gardner Minshew, he's great. I think he knows what to do to get the job done. Their offense should be able to move the ball, but the Tennessee defense with Jeffrey Simmons and Jadeveon Clowney up top, I'm sure Rashaan Evans, after getting ejected for his throwing a punch, is gonna pay back his team for that mistake and make some plays this weekend. So I think the Tennessee defense is going to come to play, is going to give that offense fits. They're going to find ways to create turnovers, whether it's through interceptions, whether it is through fumble recoveries. So I am going to go ahead and pick Tennessee. I think Tennessee does handle their business against Jacksonville. Now, it is a division game. Jacksonville and Tennessee weirdly play each other close every year when they play those two matchups. So I do think Jacksonville may have a shot to win it in the fourth quarter just because of that. So I'm going to keep it close, though. I'm going to say Tennessee wins like a 24-17 win on Sunday. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next matchup. Carolina is heading down to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. No news on either team. As far as injuries heading into this matchup, Dennis Daly has not practiced because of an ankle injury. Their rookie edge rusher, Yetur Gross-Matos, has not practiced this week because of a concussion. And then Kawan Short has been limited this week because of a foot injury. And then on the Bucs side, unfortunately, Tom Brady might not be able to play with his pair of wide receivers there in Tampa for the second straight week. Well, I guess Mike did play, but that wasn't the real Mike last week. But anyways, Chris Godwin, he has not practiced this week because of a concussion. Now, Dr. Chow, he's on Twitter. He's a longtime doctor in the NFL. He right now writes. He's a guy I do trust with his opinion. He did mention that usually if a player concussion kind of flares up days after a game, that's not a good sign, and usually that could lead to multiple missed weeks by that player. So that'll be something to watch. I'm kind of going into this matchup expecting Chris Godwin won't be playing. Anthony Auclair has not practiced this week because of a calf injury. Mike Evans has been limited with his hamstring injury. He tried to gut it out through last week, so I think he will be on the field. And then Donovan Smith is limited with a knee injury. As far as this game, I think after the last week's loss to the Saints, I think the Bucs team is going to come out angry. I do think they're going to do whatever they can do to basically stomp their foots down the throats of the Panthers. But we'll see how the Panthers respond too. They are an interesting team this year. They looked like they could potentially be an offense that can move the ball through the air and on the ground last week. They always got Christian McCaffrey. Robbie Anderson showed up in his first action last week. They still got DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. We'll see if Ian Thomas can do anything. But my biggest concern with the Panthers is that offensive line, and they're going against one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL. Devin White and Levante David looked outstanding last week with them flying all over the field. The secondary played pretty well last week for the Bucks, so this is kind of gelling to be a top defensive unit in the NFL as long as that secondary continues to stay healthy and continues to improve. So I do think they're going to come up with some key third down stops on Sunday, but there might be some drives that Panthers do move the ball and get down into scoring position. Swapping it around too, I think Tom Brady is going to want to have a classic Tom Brady game after a loss. A bunch of Mike Evans. I think this might be the game if Chris Godwin is out. I mean, sure, Scotty Miller will get his, but this might be a game where you see Tom spread it all throughout the tight ends. I'm saying all three: Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate, and OJ Howard. Maybe all of them get like 3+ touches. Maybe even all three get a touchdown. Who knows? I think the Bucs are going to try to make a statement against a very young, inexperienced defense, and I think they're going to want to put up points this week. So I am going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they do handle business with it being at home. I know for whatever reason, any other day, maybe I have the Panthers finishing close, but with the Bucs coming off that loss, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Bucs beat them by 10 points. I'm gonna say the Bucs win like a 31-21 type win for Tampa Bay. Now I'm going to go ahead and move into the next 1 p.m. matchup. It will be the Denver Broncos. They are traveling to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. No news on either team. As far as injuries, the Broncos did have to place A.J. Bouye on IR. I will remind people through every week, in case I do get any new listeners to the show, as a friendly reminder, if I say they have been placed on IR, keep in mind with these new rules, they can return in 3 weeks. And while I'm on that subject, NFL, can you keep this every year? I like this. Like that way, so like an IR is not a death kill to a team. You can just place a guy at an IR and have him come back when he's healthy. That's something I want to see. I hope the NFL does choose to keep every year. Plus, it does give other opportunities to other players to have a job, to have an opportunity to put things on film. And you're not having to have maybe a star player try to push through an injury, which could worsen things for his career. So yeah, AJ Bouye on IR for the time being. These following players did not practice for Denver this week: Mark Barron, hamstring; Philip Lindsay, toe injury. Following players have been limited: Cortland Sutton with a shoulder, Garrett Bowles with an elbow, and Tyree Cleveland with a hip. And then Steelers could be missing 2 of their starting offensive linemen. David DeCastro has not practiced this week because of a knee injury, and Stefan Wisniewski has not practiced with his chest injury. That could maybe change things in this game if they're missing their 2 starting guards, especially with a Jarrell Casey up in the middle. He looked great on Monday night. I'm waiting for a Bradley Chubb return from his injury type of game, but he will have to face Villanueva, who's one of the top tackles in this league. And then Alexander Johnson, they still got him in the middle, but with the loss of A.J. Bouye, they're going to be depending on a lot of young guys in the cornerback group. Kareem Jackson's fine. Justin Simmons is fine. So they got enough guys to maybe try to control the Steelers offense. But from what we saw on Monday, I think the Steelers offense, they got a lot of ways they can attack you. They got Benny Snell in the backfield, who looked great last week. James Conner is healthy, so I think honestly, it's for right now, it's going to be a 1-2 punch between the both of them, splitting reps. Then Big Ben's got Eric Ebron. We saw the Mapletron himself, if anybody doesn't know his nickname, Chase Claypool, and then Deontay Johnson. Juju looked like Juju last week, and James Washington looked good. So variety of weapons that Big Ben can spread the ball through. with that being said, I think he nitpicks them all day, and he can easily move this ball down the field and be in scoring position. But maybe there are a couple drives they stall because if Winooski and DeCastro are out, those are big losses to me, in my opinion. Um, and then as far as swapping it around, Drew Lock, he flashed on some throws last week. He still has some room to grow. He really needs to work on his deep ball accuracy. He has the arm, but if he can find a way to drop those balls in a bucket, maybe Denver doesn't lose that game from this past Monday night. We'll see if Cortland Sutton can get on the field. If Cortland Sutton can get on the field, that definitely makes things easier for the Denver offense with him. Jerry Jeudy just has to catch the ball. He looked amazing outside of his couple of drops from the Monday night. Noah Fant looks like he's coming along in his second year. They'll probably be missing Lindsey, but they still got Melvin Gordon. So if there's any way this offensive line can hold up, that's my biggest concern with Denver. If their offensive line can hold up, maybe generate some yards per contact for Melvin Gordon, and that can maybe open up things in the passing game. But, man, that Steelers defense is unreal with T.J. Watt and Cameron Hayward up front. Devin Bush manning things in the middle, Mika Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden. There's just so many playmakers in that defense. I do think they are going to get some turnovers off lock this week. It's hard to pick against the Steelers, even despite them possibly missing their two starting guards this week. It's at home. I think Big Ben's back. He's ready to go on a comeback player of the year tour. I think it's going to maybe come down to him and Cam Newton. But, I think Steelers handled their business. I kind of have a weird feeling that maybe the Broncos keep it interesting into the fourth quarter. And then at some point in the fourth quarter, the Steelers pull away and make it not look like a game. I think maybe the Steelers win like a 35-24 type of win for the Steelers at home. I'm going to keep it moving. I'm going to be talking about the Rams. They are going all the way out to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. One news note on the Rams, Sean McVay said last night that the team is working on an extension with Robert Woods. I'm starting to believe the salary cap is a myth. And I don't know how the Rams continue to create money, but they find a way to print money in LA. It might be that big stadium that they're going to make a lot of money off of over the next decade. And then as far as injuries heading into this matchup with the Rams, Gerald Everett, he has been limited with a back injury. On the Eagles front, looks like they're going to be a lot more healthier heading into this matchup. Alshon Jeffrey, of course, he's still out with a foot injury. Following guys have been limited. Brandon Graham with a concussion. Javon Hargrave with a pec and hamstring. If they can get him up front, that'll be huge. And then Lane Johnson with an ankle injury. I know Adam Schefter said it is expected Lane does return to that lineup this week. And then Miles Sanders, who missed last week, he's been a full practice, by the way, for any fantasy owners. So unless there's something that flares up in practice today, I think Miles Sanders is good to go. Man, I don't know how I'll feel about this matchup. I might piss off Rob with where I'm leaning right now. I'm going to go ahead and start with this. So the Rams, though, their defense, I do think they are better than what people thought entering this year. Aaron Donald can just completely blow up an offensive line. Eagles' offensive line looked awful last week. I do think that he's going to get after Carson Wentz and force him into turnovers this week, whether it is fumbles or interceptions. And then we got to see Jalen Ramsey, who he will be matched up on this week. Eagles really don't have a true number one wide receiver. They do depend on Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Maybe he slides in on the tight ends a couple plays throughout the game. I think he'll be used in a variety of ways. But I think the Rams, they got enough to make problems for the Eagles offense. But if the Eagles got Miles Sanders being healthy, if Lane Johnson's going to play, that does give them a better chance to either at least give Carson some time to get the ball out of his hands. And having a true number one back in the backfield does make a difference. I like Boston Scott. I like Corey Clement, but those guys are quality guys to have in when Miles Sanders needs a breather. But they're not true number one backs. So I think we're going to see a great game out of Miles Sanders out of the backfield. And then we'll see if any of these young wide receivers can step up. Maybe Jalen Reagor can get the ball more. Maybe Arcega wide side. So I do think there are going to be ways the Eagles move the ball, and they're going to find ways to put up points. But I think there's going to be some drives that either end in a 3-and-out, or maybe they end in a turnover. Flipping sides of the ball here, the Rams offense, they got a lot of ways to attack you now with the emergence. They got Cooper Kupp, they got Robert Woods, who looked great last week, Tyler Higbee at the tight end position. Malcolm Brown's a good quality back. We'll see if Cam Akers can get more of a role this week, and we're going to have to see if this offensive line can hold up against them. Now, they did do a good job against the Cowboys offensive line last week, but if Javon Hargrave is going to make his first game as an Eagle, that will be huge up in the middle. They still got Brandon Graham on the outside. He's limited with the concussion. I'd imagine he should hopefully clear protocol by Sunday. But they still got like Fletcher Cox. Derek Barnett is now fully healthy. They got Darius Slay, so we'll see who Darius Slay sticks on. So I think there's some pieces there where they could give the Rams fits throughout the game. I do think the Rams are going to move the ball. I do view this as a high-scoring type of game. Now, I always point to this, even though I was kind of proven wrong last week with the West Coast to East Coast matchups, but it is an LA team playing in Philadelphia at the 1 p.m. slot time. So maybe there is a slow start for the Rams. That is possible. I am going to go ahead and say I'm factoring that in. But I do think it's going to be a shootout type of game. I think maybe somehow the Eagles get out to a bigger lead, Rams storm back, then it's kind of like they go back and forth throughout the second half of the game. I think because of that loss last week to the Eagles, I think they're too talented and have too good of a coaching staff to lose back-to-back games to start the season, especially with the guys like Lane Johnson and Miles Sanders being back in the lineup. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I'm going to say the Eagles win a 31-27 type of win. It's going to be close.
I'll tell you what, before you even move on, I'm going to let you get away with that call, right? Because I think it'll be a close game. But there's a couple of things I want to say here. This is the cleanest we've started with an injury report with the Rams. These would have been the two cleanest reports last year. And we've already, again, the Rams were 9-7 with injuries last year. So I will cave that it's going to be a close game. But another thing is nobody cares anymore. This is a battle of the number 1 and number 2 pick. Remember when that was a thing? And Jared Goff better flex his muscles this week for me.
That. I should have brought that up. I should have brought that up. But yeah. You got a good point. They are pretty healthy entering this matchup. So, I mean, like I said, I would not be surprised if the Rams win, but something tells me with the Eagles already being 0-1, with the disappointment of last week, they're going to do whatever it takes to win this week. So I am hedging on that. And if I'm wrong, you can give me crap on the happy hour on Tuesday.
Deal.
All right. Yeah, we'll figure something out. Maybe I do the push-ups or whatever we're doing as far as that. So I'm going to move on to this next matchup, guys. San Francisco is headed out to New York to face the Jets. A couple injury notes for both teams. Richard Sherman placed on IR for the time being. Le'Veon Bell and Denzel Mims on the Jets side, they have been placed on IR. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but the Jets did sign Kalen Ballage in that move. So if you recognize that name, he's a former running back from Miami, has a history with Adam Gase, if that is anything at all to even mention. But so I'm gonna go ahead and go through the rest of the injuries on the San Francisco front. These following 4 players did not practice: George Kittle with a knee, D Ford with a neck, Jason Verrett with a hamstring, Richie James with a hamstring, and Akello Witherspoon with a concussion. On the Jets front, Jamison Crowder with a hamstring injury. He did not practice. Then these following 4 players have been limited: LaMichael Pirine with an ankle injury, Joe Flacco with a neck, Avery Williamson with a hamstring injury, and Terrell Basham with a hip injury. Now, I'm probably going to honestly be pretty quick with this one, guys. You already know the Jets are the worst team in the NFL. It's hands down. They're awful. Sam Darnold through his first game, we can see if maybe he has a Baker Mayfield type of bounce back in a week 2. But man, he didn't show any promise last week. He doesn't have any weapons that I can really count on. I mean, I like a Chris Herndon. Brashard Perriman's all right as a wide receiver 3 at best, in my opinion. So he doesn't have a true wide receiver. He just lost Le'Veon Bell, so he's going to be counting on a Frank Gore out of all people. And I love Frank Gore, but come on, Frank's at, what is he, like 35, I think, or 36 at this point? Yeah, that Jets offense is just ugly. And then, man, they're going against one of the better defensive fronts, right? Nick Bosa is going to get after Sam Darnold. Javon Kinlaw.
No interruption. He's actually older than you think. Frank Gore is 37 years of age. So 37 for Frank Gore.
And to make people feel old, like, first of all, Frank Gore, like, I always loved Frank Gore because he helped won my first ever fantasy football championship back in my senior year of high school. And I'm not going to give you guys that. I'll let you figure out how old I am. It's pretty old. But yeah, and then Frank Gore's son is a freshman in college football this year. He made his debut just a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure Frank Gore wants to play until his son's in the league. I think that's his goal.
This is a get right game, though, right? Like classic get right. Like I feel like this is a game.
Thank you. Get me back on track. Yeah. So I think this is a get right game, even despite all these injuries to the 49ers. I think Nick Bosa gets at their Sam Darnold. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Javon Kinlaw was amazing last week against the Cardinals. He really flashed his potential. They still got the linebackers, so I really do think they're going to beat up on that Jets offense. And then you reverse it, the Jets defense, it's just awful. I mean, if there was ever a game for Jimmy G to maybe get back to the Jimmy G that we kind of saw throughout a couple games or more than a couple, but half the season last year, this is the game. Even if he doesn't have George Kittle, I think Brandon Ayuk, he's not on the injury report, so they should get their rookie wide receiver back this week. They still got Jordan Reed as well. So they should be able to run the ball, right? They should be able to get Raheem Mostert back, they got Jerick McKinnon back. He looked good in his first game back in 2 years. And they still got Tevin Coleman, who didn't really play last year because of the sickle cell that he has and those unenforced wildfires out there in California. So I think there's going to be a run heavy type of day for the San Francisco offense. Get the clock moving. Their defense will create turnovers, get them in scoring position. I'm not even going to buy into any type of, like, even if the San Francisco starts off slow because of the whole West Coast to East Coast thing at the 1 p.m. time, by the time they get going, they're going to run away with the game. It's not going to be a game. I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I'll eat crow if the Jets completely upset them. I think the rest of the NFL business will eat crow on that one. San Francisco is going to win by 2 touchdowns. I think they will go out there and win like a 28-10 win for San Francisco. I'm going to go ahead and get into this next matchup. Buffalo is traveling down to Miami to face the Dolphins. As far as there's no news on either team. As far as injuries, Matt Milano has not practiced this week for the Bills because of a hamstring, as well as Deshaun Phillips because of a quad. Following 3 players have been limited for Buffalo: Tremaine Edmonds, Jerry Hughes, and Isaiah McKenzie. And then on the Dolphins side, Landon Roberts did not practice this morning because of a concussion. Or yesterday, because not this morning. And then following players have been limited for Dolphins: Xavier Howard with the knee, Byron Jones with an Achilles, Devontae Parker with a hamstring, and I'm going to butcher this kid's name, Clayton Vigedelm with a pectoral. Probably butchered that. Please don't kill me, Clayton. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this game. As far as the Dolphins, we start like on the offensive side of the ball. It was pretty ugly last week against New England. Fitzpatrick through a 3-interception classic Fitzpatrick game. It's one way or another with him at quarterback. Either he's going to ball out and he's going to give you a shot to win, or he's going to completely give you a shot to lose. There's no in between with him. Their offense is very weak right now. I mean, if Devontae Parker has to miss, they only got really Preston Williams as a legit threat at the wide receiver position. Mike Gesicki is too inconsistent to count on in a week in, week out type of situation from the tight end as a receiving tight end. And then their running game, Myles Gaskin got majority of the touches. They still got Matt Breida and Jordan Howard, but very middle of the road running back group. And then their offensive line is not that great. And then they're going against one of the better defenses in the NFL. Ed Oliver up front. I believe Tremaine Edmonds will play through his injury. Great linebacker. Trey White, especially if they're not – if Devontae Parker does miss this game, they can stick Trey White on Preston Williams and call it a day. So with Fitzpatrick being out there, I think I see a lot of sacks and potential interceptions for that Buffalo defense. I think Buffalo's defense is going to manhandle the Dolphins offense on Sunday. Switch sides of the ball. Josh Allen, despite it being a Josh Allen experience with his 2 fumbles, he still had one of his better games of his career last week. I think that's going to roll in to Miami. I think he's going to keep plays alive because that Miami defensive front is not that great with his legs. So he's going to extend drives. Even though they got 2 quality corners in that secondary, I really don't trust their safety group. So I think he's going to pick them apart through the air too. Stephon Diggs is going to demand double coverage, but they still got a John Brown. They got a Cole Beasley to pick it apart in the middle. Dawson Knox up the stream right between those safeties. So I still think Josh Allen's going to have a pretty good day. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary will make a nice little 1-2 punch too to help run the ball against that weak defensive front of Miami. And then, I don't know. I just don't trust Miami's defense yet. I think with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, they're both banged up. So I don't think they're both 100%, even though Jones had a pretty good game last week. But I think Buffalo just has too many weapons for that Miami offense to slow down. Because it is a division matchup, it is in Miami. I can see this potentially being a close game throughout all 3 quarters, but I think it's one of those matchups where the better team pulls away in the 4th quarter and handles business as the game comes to an end. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick Buffalo. I say Buffalo wins like a 24-14 type of win on Sunday. And I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving for you guys. And as a reminder, I see it. Good morning, Jay. I see you have joined us, one of our favorite Blitz fans that we have. And as a reminder, Rob's in the comments, so feel free to make fun of the Rams in the comments, and feel free to put any questions in there for me to answer at the end of this episode.
And this has been Cody Talks NFL.
All right, so I'm going to go to the last 1 p.m. game on Sunday. And then the Minnesota Vikings, they are traveling out to the Indianapolis Colts. As far as news on the Vikings front, they had to place Pat Elflein, their starting guard, on IR. So I don't know if that's a big a loss. Elflein has been a very major disappointment since he's entered the NFL. So if they can maybe get a Drew Samia, a guy I liked on the Vikings prospect list in the book we all wrote, they can maybe replace him with him there. Maybe Ezra Cleveland kicks in. I've heard the Vikings have tried him out at guard. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a major loss for the Vikings. That's all I'm trying to get at. And then Cameron Dancer, their rookie cornerback, has not practiced because of a rib injury. So that's not a good sign heading into the week with an already pretty young secondary. And then the Colts, they're a little banged up heading into this matchup. Jack Doyle has not practiced this week because of an ankle and knee injury. Justin Houston with a calf injury has not practiced, and Isaiah Rodgers has not practiced with an ankle injury. Following few players have been limited for the Colts in practice: Zach Pascal with an ankle injury, Michael Pittman with a toe injury, and then Julian Blackmon with a knee injury. Man, this one's kind of hard to pick because I kind of view the teams are as the same. They're like right now to me both middle of the road teams or middle of the pack NFL teams as far as my power rankings, but have the potential to be pretty good to go in on a deep postseason run if they put it together. And both teams are coming off a loss, so they're already kind of finding themselves in win now mode before this season gets lost very early. I'll start on the Colts side of the ball. They moved the ball really easily this past week. All it's going to come down to is Philip Rivers can't make Philip Rivers boneheaded decisions and get those interceptions, which kills drives. So I don't know. We saw the Packers move the ball pretty easily last week. I saw a stat the Packers allowed 90 yards, which was the second most yards before contact on Sunday to the Vikings. So if the Colts can get that, the Colts have a better offensive line than the Packers. So if the Packers can do that, I would imagine the Colts can do that. And a running back that does very well and that is used to getting a lot of yards before contact from college is Jonathan Taylor. I think this is a perfect matchup for Jonathan Taylor to get his first start at the position, and I think he's going to run all over the Vikings defense because of Michael Pierce opting out prior to the season. Daniil Hunter's still on the IR for the Vikings. Yannick Ngakwe is in a new system. He has to kind of get conditioned too because he joined the team basically the week before week one. I guess I underestimated or overestimated the impact of the Vikings defensive front to start the season. Something's going to hold them back for now, but I think when Daniil Hunter gets back, that will improve. But I think it's going to maybe be a detriment to their defense in this game. I think Jonathan Taylor has a great game. I think Naheem Hines continues his production out of the backfield as well. And then I think that maybe a Paris Campbell in the slot has a good game. I know T.Y. Hilton will like to take advantage of these young cornerbacks after his 2 drops. So I do think the Colts are going to move the ball and they are going to find ways to put up points on Sunday. But, keep in mind, though, Philip Rivers is prone for his turnovers. So if a Harrison Smith, a veteran safety, can be a sneaky type of guy, get that pick 6 that he's known for, Vikings have the Vikings still have some playmakers to make this a difficult game. And then Yannick Ngakwe steps up on Sunday and gets that pressure on Rivers too. That is definitely plausible. Switch sides of the ball. Despite having the second lowest time of possession ever in game history, the Vikings still were able to put up points and move the ball against the Packers last week. Kirk Cousins did had a boneheaded interception, but they were still able to move the ball. And the Colts defense looked very suspect last week. I'm gonna be brutally honest about my favorite team. It looked bad. Gardner Minshew had all day to throw the ball. The secondary looked it looked like a secondary that didn't have enough time to gel prior to the start of this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if Adam Thielen has a great game. I wouldn't be surprised if guys like Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph get involved. Justin Jefferson could have his coming out party in the NFL against the secondary if they played like they did last week, especially if they can't get any defensive pressure. Now, the run defense was good. It was solid. I mean, people point to James Robinson having a good game, but he only averaged like 3.8 or 3.9 yards per carry. I'm not really too much worried about the rush defense. So I think they can do what it takes to bottle up Dalvin. I just wonder if they're going to get Kirk Cousins is going to shred him through the air. With that being said, I do think this might be a shootout type of game. I do think both offenses ball against both defenses. It's going to come maybe down to who has the ball at the end of the game because the Colts are at home and maybe because I'm biased towards my Colts. I'll be honest. I say Philip has the ball at the end. He makes up for his loss last week. He finds a way to get a touchdown to win the game. Colts win 35-31. But I'm going to go ahead and say this to you to cover the back end. I would not be surprised if the Vikings have the ball at the end and they score a touchdown to win. And then we are going to go ahead and go into the 4 p.m. games. All right. So These are the 4 p.m. Eastern games. I'm going to start with the first game up on the list. Washington football team is traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals. A little note on the football team, Dan Snyder said this week that he says the team may have found their permanent name. I got a couple thoughts on that. Dan Snyder, don't plan on you being the owner for a long time if more
Burn.
stuff comes out of the organization that went underneath your watch. So let's not get ahead of yourself on saying anything about a team name. And second of all, just because you guys took advantage of a D squad offensive line and beat the Eagles, let's not buy into that much. I honestly only think the way that you can stick as the Washington football team is if you guys do go all the way to the Super Bowl and you win. You win the Super Bowl, yeah. You make the playoffs, let's debate about it. But if you're going to do what you're probably going to do this season, yeah, they got the win. They're still going to be a bad team throughout the season. I still think they miss the playoffs. And no, come on. Nobody wants to call you Washington football team. All right, after that little rant, I'm going to go ahead and get into this game. Washington football team, Cole Holkman has been limited this week. On the Cardinals injury front, they did have to place their starting safety, Jalen Thompson, on the IR. We'll see if one of my favorite safeties from last year's draft class, Deontay Thompson, can step up in his absence. Mason Cole and Max Williams both have not practiced this week, and then Kylie Fitz and Josh Jones have both been limited for the Cardinals. As far as this matchup, this one's pretty interesting for me. Arizona was very fun to watch them move the ball against a 49ers defense. I still have my concerns over that offensive line, but the great thing about Kyler Murray is his little Mighty Mouse feet, his little quick feet, is able to move the ball around pretty easily. So even though the Washington defensive front has that great front, I don't know if they're going to be able to bottle up Kyler Murray. But if I were them, try to have Chase Young and Sweat kind of try to cover the ground, like keep him bottled up in, and then let Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, the other defensive tackle, let those guys explode it up. Like keep him bottled up. That's how you're going to have to beat him. Like I'm telling NFL defenses right now, you might have to have a perfect defensive front like Washington, but like get him bottled up. If they can do that and they can force Kyler into turnovers, I think maybe Washington could have a chance. I'm gonna start giving Washington defense more benefit of the doubt to maybe keep them in games, but because of Kyler's feet, because of Nuke Hopkins going off, so many weapons in that offense, I think they're going to find ways to make explosive plays throughout the day, and they're going to find the end zone at least 3 times. I'll go ahead and say it. And then as far as if you switch the ball, Washington got that win last week, but I don't know if it was the Philly defense or the Washington offense, but Washington averaged the lowest yards per play last week with only 3.7 yards per play. They need to get Antonio Gibson more involved. I know they end up getting the lead. They leaned on Peyton Barber, and they had a guy called J.D. McKissick involved. But when you go look at the stat lines, those guys did nothing outside of maybe Peyton Barber falling in the end zone at the goal line. Maybe get Bryce Love activated too on the roster. See if maybe he can be more effective as a runner between the tackles than those two. I would like to see a Bryce Love and a Antonio Gibson combo in that backfield. Scary Terry McLaurin, he's going against Patrick Peterson or a Byron Murphy. He will have a little tough matchup this week. We'll see if Logan Thomas can maybe continue to be a thing within this offense from the tight end position. I still don't like that offensive line, so I think Chandler Jones is going to have 2+ sacks in this game. Budda Baker will have some potential turnover opportunity with Dwayne Haskins. Now, speaking of Dwayne Haskins, he's interesting, right? He seems like he is from what I'm gathering from reports, it sounds like he gave a halftime speech last week when Ron Rivera had to get an IV because Ron Rivera, for those that are unaware, is going through cancer treatments right now. So I guess Dwayne Haskins did step up and gave a halftime speech. He was named team captain, so maybe he is doing the right things in the locker room. So maybe there's a way he can will them to a victory. But I'm still waiting for that game out of Dwayne Haskins, right? Maybe this could be that game. I don't know. I think the Cardinals have too many playmakers, and I do think that the Washington's offense is still limited as a unit. So I think they're going to give them fits throughout the day. I think Arizona does kind of win this game pretty comfortably with them being at home. I think they end up winning. I'll say they win by like 10. I'll say a touchdown. I'll say Arizona wins like a 31-24
Give
type
my
win.
MVP that W. There are whispers on Twitter right now that Godwin is at practice today and has returned from concussion protocol already.
Oh wow. Well, so
So
much for that reporter.
yeah, I don't. Right now, it looks like it's only being reported thus far by Rick Stroud. So I mean, salt. You know what I mean? Grain of salt here, but he said that he's seen him at practice today. So
Okay, well, that's a good sign for any if you're a Chris Godwin owner in fantasy football that he might play. And I mean, it doesn't change my opinion. That just makes my opinion of what happens in that game even better. I think the offense is gonna and Tampa Bay is gonna want to really stuff their feet down Carolina's throat on Sunday. I'm gonna go ahead and get into this next Sunday matchup that we got going on. Kansas City is traveling out to LA to face the Chargers. Few the injuries heading into this matchup. I'll start with the Chiefs. These three players have not practiced this week. Alex Okafor because of a hamstring, Colin Saunders because of an elbow, and Charvarius Ward because of a hand injury. Mike Pouncey for the Chargers. He's actually having season-ending hip surgery, so he's done for the year. So that means he doesn't get to protect their new quarterback, Justin Herbert, whenever he eventually comes in, which I do think is going to have to happen. And then as far as their other players, Justin Jackson and Darnell Parham have not practiced this week. A little note, though, quadricep for Justin Jackson, it's an illness for Parham, so I wouldn't imagine that keeps him out for too long. And then Joey Bosa has been limited this week with a as far as this matchup, I might be quick with this one just because KC is going to be so tough to beat this year. KC's offense has so many ways to attack them. Now, I will say this: the Chargers do have a defense, even despite Derwin James missing. Their group of corners are very solid. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram can still get after the quarterback. Jerry Tillery looked great last week. So they got a great defensive front. Kenneth Murray. We'll see if he can. He kind of struggles in coverage, so we'll see if he can be the guy that maybe try to slow down CEH in that Chiefs offense. We got a little rookie on rookie, first round pick versus first round pick potential battle right there. But with that being said, I just can't see, even how good that defense is. I'd be basically being a contrarian for no reason, trying to talk up that the Chargers defense is going to slow down that KC offense. Now, with that being said, there's this weird history that like the Chargers defense kind of, I won't say shuts down the KC offense, but they do somewhat give them problems. With Patrick Mahomes, there's a history of this team kind of sneaking out wins in the past. Not going to happen though when we switch sides of the ball with Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is a great guy. He protects the ball. He is willing to take a deep shot, but he just doesn't move the ball enough. I mean, look at last night, for example. The Browns offense went from looking like trash against the Ravens to looking pretty good against that Bengals defense. The Chargers offense was pretty rough against the Bengals defense. So I think KC has a lot more playmakers. Obviously, I don't think it's a fact. They have a lot more playmakers than that Bengals defense. So I think the Chargers offense is going to struggle on Sunday. 3 and outs, potential turnovers, even with Tyrod at the quarterback position. I think KC is going to potentially even open up to a big lead, and they're going to have to be a pass-happy Chargers offense. And I think with Tyrod under the center, they're trying to be Chargers offense. So I don't even think this is a close one, with it being a division matchup. I do think Kansas City handles their business on the road. I think they do win by at least 10 points, if not more. I say KC wins like a 35-24 type of win on Sunday. And then let's see here. Is this the last? Yeah, last Sunday, 4 p.m. matchup is Baltimore is traveling to Houston. No news on either team as far as injuries for both teams heading into the matchup. Justin Madubuike has not practiced with a knee injury, as well as Chris Moore with a finger injury. Following players have been limited: Ronnie Stanley with a hip, Jimmy Smith with a hip, and Justice Hill with a thigh. And then on the Texans front, these 4 players have been limited. For Houston, J.J. Watt with a hip injury, Brandon Cooks with a quad injury, Duke Johnson with an ankle injury, and another name I'm probably going to butcher, Peter Colombai. I feel like I maybe got that one close, with a hamstring injury. As far as this matchup, you got Deshaun Watson versus Lamar Jackson, so I'm all about that. I just feel like it's the complete opposite sides of the spectrum of what you want your franchise quarterback to be in. You got Lamar Jackson, who's in a system that's built around him and built for him to succeed. And then you got Deshaun Watson with Bill O'Brien and a hodgepodge of an offense that surrounds him. So you already know where I'm going with this. Let's start with the better side. Baltimore Ravens offense looked great last week. Lamar Jackson was great on the ground and great through the air. He has nice touch on his passes. He's got Mark Andrews to spread the ball to. Marquise Brown looked great last week. Seems like Willie Snead will have a role in this offense. They're using all 3 backs between Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus Edwards. They have a variety of ways to attack you on the ground, a variety of ways to attack you through the air. And then you go to the opposite side. I mean, outside of Zach Cunningham, Amunier up front, you got a banged up J.J. Watt. I know they still got like a Whitney Merciless, but he's getting up there in age. But they have nobody in that secondary. I mean, I like Justin Reed, but yeah, that's about it. And that defense is going to be the detriment to that team all year, just like we saw last week against Kansas City. I think Baltimore easily moves the ball through the ground, through the air, and they put up points easily against that defense. Going to the opposite side, Deshaun Watson. I think he is that type of quarterback where he will always have the team in a position to win a game, but maybe not against the great teams like KC we saw last week, and maybe not like against the Texans. Nothing against him. I just think his team holds them back. Their offensive line is going to struggle with that defensive front against Baltimore. He's probably going to be running for his life and having to get rid of the ball early. David Johnson did show some flashes of old David Johnson. We all have to see that continues into this week. They really need him to step up and even be a better player than he was last week to have a chance. And then how's this wide receiver room going to look? Will Fuller, he got featured last week, but newcomers like Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, I think they were disappeared last week. So can they get those guys involved in the offense? But then again, going against a top cornerback group with Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, and Jimmy Smith, as long as he does play through that hip injury, I think that defense is going to give that Houston offense problems. I think they're going to bottle up that run game, which leads to the offense getting up onto an early lead, which leads to a pass-happy Texans offense. That leads to more pressure on Deshaun Watson, which maybe could lead to turnovers, which leads to forced throws. And I don't know which player in that Texans offense outside of Deshaun Watson, now that Hopkins is gone, that can help them step up in the third and fourth quarter to climb back in games. So I think Baltimore handles their business on the road against Houston. I'll say Baltimore wins like a 28 I'll give the Texans a chance to tie it, 28-21 type of win. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the Sunday night matchup. We got the Patriots heading to Seattle to face the Seahawks. As far as injuries heading into this matchup, on the Patriots side, Josh Uche has not practiced with an ankle injury. Following players have been limited for the Patriots. Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, Adam Butler, and Brandon Copeland. And then on the Seahawks front, these two players have not practiced. Rasheem Green and Cedric Agbuye have not practiced this week for Seattle. And then Dwayne Brown and Philip Dorsett have been limited for Seattle. Now, while those guys have been limited, Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell Wilson, went off last week. And despite going against a very great Seattle secondary, I still think that's going to continue on Sunday night. I think they're going to try to maybe lean more on the run game in this matchup because of the Patriots secondary. I think we're going to see more runs with a Chris Carson, maybe Carlos Hyde gets involved, maybe even a DJ Dallas or a Travis Homer get involved. I do think they're going to try to go back a little bit to the run just because that is Pete Carroll history and what he depends on, just so they can kind of open up the passing game, get maybe the secondary flat on their feet, so they can spread the ball down the field to a DK Metcalf and to a Tyler Lockett. Russell Wilson can then open up things on play actions with his legs. He can maybe run for first downs. So I do think maybe the secondary can give the team fits in the first half, but I think as the game progresses, I think Russell Wilson will find holes in that defense to pick them apart. And then, I mean, on the Patriots defense, they're going to need, Stephon Gilmore to maybe get a turnover, maybe one of the McCourty twins, maybe Kyle Duggar steps up and makes his first rookie splash play. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to find ways to stop the run and to generate pass rush up front. We'll see if maybe that can be done through a guy like Chase Winovich this week. And I really don't trust their linebacker core. So that's why I'm kind of thinking the Pete Carroll is going to try to run the ball to at least begin the game. I think that's the weakness that they can attack them through. Switching the sides of the ball, though, we got Cam Newton. This is Cam Newton versus Russell Wilson. I can't wait to watch that. Seattle's defense still needs a lot of work. I mean, they allowed over 400 passing yards last week to Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Now that they are facing a completely different type of offense in New England, but I think they have enough where it takes to slow down this Patriots rushing attack, at least in my opinion right now. Luckily, this isn't going to be a pass happy offense. So Seattle doesn't need that edge rusher that they desperately need right now to slow down the pass. So they got guys like a Bobby Wagner and a Jordan Brooks that can control the middle of the field as long as the guys up front like a Puna Ford can control the middle to help stop the rushing offense from Carolina. And then what I would do personally, let the other secondary pieces do what they got to do in coverage. But I would have Jamal Adams completely spy on Cam Newton all game. That's his assignment. You go where Cam goes. If you feel like he's going to throw the ball, kind of stay back. But if you feel like Cam might be running the ball on a pass play, go up and get him. Follow him. Follow him on all run plays. I would just specifically stick Jamal Adams on Cam Newton that whole game as a spy. But they probably won't. They might use him in a variety of ways. That's just my opinion. But I do think they have enough what it takes to maybe slow down this offense, maybe to hold them to field goals, maybe to hold them to drives that they are forced to punt. And maybe they can potentially create some turnovers. Because of that, that's why I think Seattle is going to win this game. I think they just have more firepower on their offensive side of the ball compared to New England's offensive side of the ball. And they are at home, even though they don't have any fans. They don't get the really 12 aspect. That is going to be kind of weird to watch a Seattle game without the loud crowd. But yeah, I am going to pick Seattle. I do think they win this game. It will be probably close because of Bill Belichick and his ability to be the mastermind of football. So I'm going to say Seattle 27-21 type of game. for the Seahawks. Now I'm going to go ahead and head into the Monday Night Football matchup. Little note: this is the first game in the Death Star, which is actually the Allegiant Stadium. And yeah, I know my boy Gruden talked crap about Star Wars, but you better watch your mouth because the Death Star never ends well in Star Wars movies. Gruden. A couple injury notes though to go ahead and talk about. Now, keep in mind, Monday games that I talk about. This is one day of practice. I don't read into the first day of practice injuries. It's more of the second day. So you need to watch these names for their practice reports today, and then they will get that final practice report and injury report that comes out tomorrow. But as far as injuries, Michael Thomas, it did come out this morning that there was some optimism after practice. Now he was listed as he did not practice yesterday. There is some optimism that maybe he could play, but I think it sounds like the expectation is he won't play. If I'm the Saints, like if you think he can go and he will continue to get healthy, I understand playing him. But again, this is like the last year they're going all in on Drew Brees getting a Super Bowl. So if you can maybe wait a week and get him healthier, I would. And then Marcus Davenport has not returned to practice with an elbow injury. Cesar Ruiz was limited. He missed his first rookie game. So, and that interior of the offensive line looked ugly last week against the Bucs. So they really need their first round pick to be healthy and get into the lineup this week. Following players on the Raiders did not practice this week. Again, this maybe could be more of a rest day. Let's see where they're at after today. Trent Brown with a calf injury, Richie Incognito with an Achilles, Henry Ruggs with a knee, and then Nick Kowalski, I think that's how you say his name, with a pectoral injury, and then Sam Young with a groin injury. As far as this matchup, let's start with the Raiders. They definitely looked a lot better on offense. I'm going to go ahead and give them credit. Last week, they looked what they could potentially be, but let's keep in mind that was against a very young, inexperienced Panthers offense. So we'll see now that they got a true test against the Saints defense, how this offense can be. I think Henry Ruggs is listed on the report. I think yesterday was more of a rest period. I know he got banged up, but he came back in last week. So he should be able to go, and he can maybe help stretch the field for this offense. Josh Jacobs looked amazing last week. But this Raiders offense, the only way I believe they're going to have a shot is they are going to have to get Josh Jacobs going early. They're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to control the clock and keep the ball out of the Saints' offensive hands. So if they can do that, and Derek Carr can, just, matriculate the ball down the field, his little dump offs, maybe dump something off to Henry Ruggs, see if he can take it deep, maybe get Brian Edwards more involved, Darren, their tight end, to get him. But we'll see. They got one of the better offensive lines in the league. I'm not sure about the Trent Brown injury. I'm not sure if that's going to force him to miss. I think I heard that he should be able to go on Monday. So yeah, I mean, they can definitely move the ball and give themselves a shot. But I mean, I still believe in the Saints defense as one of the better defenses in the league. I think Cameron Jordan's going to get after Derek Carr, and then when Derek Carr does get underneath pressure, that usually does lead to turnovers. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a good showing last week. They still got Marshawn Lattimore to stick on maybe a Henry Ruggs. And then Demario Davis is always a guy manning the middle of the field for that defense. So I kind of think this might be a game. Maybe the Raiders do find ways to score a few times. But I do think there's going to be ways that the Saints find to get the sacks, to get the turnovers, to help them get the win in the game. Now, when we switch sides of the ball, Jonathan Abram looked great last week, flying all over the field, being a force from the safety position. We'll see if the Max Crosby and Clelin Ferrell can get after Drew Brees and maybe force him to get the ball out of his hands, especially if Michael Thomas does have to miss. Can they we'll see. Like, if Michael Thomas is out, like, I would just try to bottle up Alvin Kamara and try to force him to beat us with a Jared Cook, with an older Emmanuel Sanders, maybe a Traquan Smith if Thomas is out. So it'll be interesting to see what this offense does look like. I mean, you got to keep in mind, Michael Thomas broke the NFL reception record last year. I don't know what to expect from this offensive unit without him in it. It's kind of hard to predict. We saw them kind of get Taysom Hill more involved last week, so we'll see if he gets any snaps. I don't know what to expect from this offense if Michael Thomas misses, but with Sean Payton being as creative as he can be, I do think he will be creative and find ways to move the ball and put up points on the board. Even though the Raiders are at home, I am going to go ahead and take the Saints. They are a more veteran team, more of a team with continuity on both sides of the ball. And I think they can find a way to win without Michael Thomas. I'm going to say the Saints win by a touchdown. I think they win like a 35-28 type of win for the Saints. And then
before you go off of this, my man, and we get to the questions anyway, I was curious. I was thinking about it last night. Could we see Kamara maybe run out of the slot and you have Lat Murray get, just standard running back bulk this week?
Yeah, I mean, that is possible. Maybe on some plays. I wouldn't say bulk.
Yeah, not overall. I was just thinking about the guy just runs short intermediate routes out of the slot anyway. Boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that, and they can also maybe do that when they maybe bring Taysom Hill in. They could always line Taysom Hill up in the back as a quarterback and line him up.
For those who don't know, Taysom Hill listed as tight end on ESPN Fantasy. I don't understand that, but before we get into questions, I'm going to give you kudos for using the word matriculate there. That was a quality word usage, sir. And we did get a smart. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. It was a throwback to the old Chiefs days. And another piece of news is as if it couldn't get worse for the Jets. Jamison Crowder is out for the week 2 game. He's out.
Oh man, dude!
So it's getting ugly for them Jets in here.
See, I wasn't a big I think majority of Blitz wasn't a big believer in Sam Young. I mean, not Sam Young. His name's right there. Sam Darnold. But he had his first game where he went off against the Lions, and he had games where he showed flashes. So I was like, all right, maybe this is what he can be. But he is what he is. But it's like me. I'm a Josh Rosen stan. Until this day, I'm defending him. It's like if I was like a Sam Darnold stan, I would be like, save Sam Darnold, trade him to San Francisco or trade him to somewhere else where he might have a chance to succeed. So yeah, let's see. I got the comments pulled up here too, Rob. So I don't know if you wanted me to just address.
Yeah, no, I'll hit it up. Jay just wants to know. He wants to talk a little bit more Rams, Eagles, and whether guard Jamon Brown is going to be playing this week against the Rams.
He's newly signed, so I would say no. Because he maybe, unless he is able to pick up the scheme right away. I know Jack's boy Nate Herbig got the start last week. I will be honest, I have not pulled up the all-22 and deep dived on the Philly offensive line to say Herbig was that bad where, maybe they need to slide him in right away. But Jamon Brown does have starting experience, so there is a possibility. I'm going to say more than likely no right now. I think maybe he's more of a backup villain type of player as of right now.
Another guy goes down, he's going to get some run.
Yeah. Either an injury or if Herbig or maybe the other guard, I'm not even sure who that is at this point. And maybe if they're
the bots.
Sorry,
the bots are
ridiculous. The Chicago Police Force. Colorado waiting, you just completely threw me off on that statement. Yeah. I was like, what? All right, yeah, but yeah. Anyways, I think right now he's probably a backup. If somebody gets hurt or if somebody's play is completely bad, maybe in the first half, they put him in and see what happens. Or if it's completely bad, he starts next week. But I would say this week is more of a hold off point.
I got a super easy question for you.
Yeah.
I got a super easy question for you, right? Because I got to do Rob's question of the week. Otherwise, what the hell am I doing here?
Right.
Real simple. Say I'm a casual fan and I got some beer and nachos waiting on me this Sunday. Give me an early morning game and an afternoon game on Sunday to watch. Which two games should I watch, man? What do you
All
think is
right.
going to be the best viewing game? Most exciting?
Most exciting. No.
He's
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. You'll probably be happy. I think the Rams and Eagles, like I said, I think that's going to be more of a shootout, back and forth, who has the ball in their hands type of game. So I would suggest Rams Eagles. I also think maybe the Vikings and Colts can be a fun game to watch. Phillip Rivers versus Kirk Cousins. Two guys that don't swear but get fired up type of quarterbacks.
right.
So I would say those two games, and then you can't pass up a Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson type of game. Yeah, you can't pass that game up. Like I said earlier, I think the Chiefs do beat up on the Chargers, so I don't think that's going to be watchable at some point. And maybe the football team does keep it interesting with the Cardinals, because those are both kind of like, they got both teams got good pieces in certain places and big holes in other
Right,
places.
it's got a
So
matchup,
that
right?
could be
You want to see Chase Young versus Kyler Murray and see who gets that. Yeah.
right. Yeah, that could be a potential one, but I would probably I would heavily lean towards seeing Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson go off. Other than that, yeah, without the Chicago police report, Colorado waiting you, whatever that means, comment. It looks like we are done with the questions for the week. Again, guys, feel free to, if you watch this on YouTube, you get in the YouTube questions, you can always ask that. It was just YouTube this week, just because we'll figure that out by next week. There's technical issues that we found out this morning with the restream thing. So if you were used to watching this on Facebook or Twitter, I'm going to go ahead and get this wrapped up, guys. As always, I mentioned it up. Blitz Analytics Prospect Encyclopedia. So proud of this thing and everybody involved. Very thick book. We are running a contest right now. All sales of the book through September 28th will be entered to win a Patrick Mahomes jersey. Once we get the final sales reports from all platforms that you can buy this on, we will pull a winner. Again, you go to blitzalytics.com/shop to order this. It's $35. For the physical copy, keep in mind, if you just want the PDF to read on your tablet, it's only $15. And if you want maybe a taste of it before you buy the physical copy, you can spend $5 for your favorite team, get an idea what you're going to get inside the book, and maybe you go ahead and purchase that physical copy. It's well worth it, guys. It gives you something every day on throughout the week. Example, while Joe Burrow was a hit last night, I talked about it earlier, CJ Uzuma got hurt. Guess what? I pulled up that book last night, read Jacob Patterson's report on Drew Sample, and then Drew Sample started making plays. So it's a gift that never stops giving, I swear, in that book. And we're going to continue to make it better every year for our fans. You like this episode, guys, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know when we go live. We have 5 live shows that we have come out every week. We have the Blitz Breakdown, and then the Steel City Sermon. I did say that right, I believe, this time. That Roy Countryman, he talks about the Steelers. He does that on Saturday mornings. And then if you want to hear my analysis or see us live where I'm on the shows, we also got the Football Happy Hour. We go live around 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights. More of a fun, laid-back show. We have laid-back topics, random topics, but we also do get into football topics and what is going on in the NFL that week. And then, of course, that voice you've been hearing in the background is Rob. We do our Fantasy Voyage every Wednesday around this same time. So make sure you like and subscribe, and so you know when we go live, and you can get any fantasy football-related questions in on Wednesday mornings. Great thing about this guys, though, if you can't, maybe you're at work or something, you can't watch this, or you just were busy that morning or that night and you miss any of our shows. All of our shows do go on to the Blitzalytics Podcast Network. Just search us on any major podcast platform. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, we FanStream Sports, a lot of different platforms that you can find us on. And then I am the Bucks beat writer. I have a Bucks article that comes out every Saturday during the season, so stay tuned for my top 5 things I want to see from the Bucks against the Panthers. I'll have that drop tomorrow at some point. And then, other than that, I do want to thank everybody again for tuning in. Again, please like and subscribe to our channel. I hope you guys enjoy this weekend's football action. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.